Hello, Yakri here with another Dominions 5 video. This time we're talking about blood magic, and I'm doing levels 4 through 6 of the research for the blood magic school, right? So we're only doing generic spells, of course, like the other spell school videos, and let's just get started with Serpent Fiend. So, Serpent Fiend is a little mediocre. I mean, it's flying, but it's only 2 blood slaves, so that is nice. It's very cheap, very cheap. It only has 1 attack. Its stats are kind of crap with like only 22 hit points, 8 protection. Stat block is whatever. It's doesn't really have a lot of like good things going for it in general. It's just very cheap and very easy to summon. I would not recommend doing it if you have other options for things you can summon. However, okay, so Hellfire, combat spell. Not great either. A lot of the blood combat spells aren't, so perhaps this isn't surprising. I mean, it costs a blood slave to deal 9 fire armor piercing damage. Area of effect is 3, so that's not too bad, but still pretty bad. Bloodlust, so this is actually really good. It affects the whole battlefield, but only demons, right? And it's a strength buff. I want to say +4 strength, I think. So it's either +2 or +4, probably. I think it's 4, and either way, it is a fairly substantial damage increase, right? I'd be happy to have this on my demons, and if you've been summoning some of those demons from, say, Research 3 Blood Magic, this is a great way to buff them. Only costs 1 blood slave to affect the whole battlefield, so if you have, like, 15, 20, 30 demons, it's pretty great for you. Okay, now let's move on to some of the more exciting stuff, actual summon spell. So, bind Storm Demons. Storm Demons are really good, right? And that's because they have this lightning attack, primarily. The rest of their stats are kind of great as well, because they are flying, they are ethereal, they have storm power, and their stat block is okay. They're kind of the squishiest demon, I think. Yeah, with their low hit points, they've got only 10 attack skill, only 14 defense, which is, a good amount, but not great for their only 20 hit points and their 5 protection. However, with Ethereal, it does make them actually fairly durable in melee combat. And then you've got Lightning and Thunder Fist, their attacks, which are pretty nice. So, let's start with Thunder Fist, actually. So Thunder Fist is armor negating, completely ignores armor, and deals 10 damage. So their strength is actually kind of irrelevant. So this is a good example of when not to cast Bloodlust, because it won't affect these guys at all. However, 10 armor negating damage, actually pretty good against anyone who's not lightning resistant. Just kind of an okay attack, but that's not what's really great about them. What's really great about them is lightning, right? Range 40, precision +3, ammunition of 10, which is quite good, and has a small area shock. Does this have? I could have sworn this had. Some damage besides magic weapon armor negating. Oh, does this actually use their strength? I think the first part of it uses their strength, and the auto effect small area of shock is separate, in addition, and shocks in an area for 1 armor negating damage. Yeah, I think that's right. That is almost definitely how that works. Yeah, so anyway, it's very good because it's a basically really powerful ranged attack with a lot of ammunition at a very long range on a unit that has high precision, has a high precision bonus, meaning the total precision for this is 17, right? Yeah, 17. So it's going to hit the unit you're aiming. If this guy decides to aim at automatically, pretty much every time, you're going to do a ton of damage. Also, if I'm correct in how this works, Bloodlust does work, after all, to increase their lightning damage. That's weird, but it says it doesn't say ignore, doesn't add strength here, which implies that it does, in fact, add strength to the attack, which is, I didn't expect that at all. I thought it would be a set amount. Anyway, Storm Demons are very good, especially if you, have them slinging lightning bolts at people during a storm. But in general, they're just a very powerful ranged unit. And the nice thing is that because they are a ranged unit, they will often survive the battle. So everything that's good about crossbowmen is good about them, but more so. And they cost 7 blood slaves, which is fairly expensive, I suppose. But as far as elite units go, it's not too bad. Blood slaves are quite plentiful. Blood Fecundity, this is not too useful. Increases the growth, I believe, in just 1 province. Yeah, just the province you're in increases the growth for a number of turns. Maybe if you're Death Nation, you could cast this on several different locations, like key provinces that are, if you cast it on farmlands with populations of 12,000 or greater, and you had, say, Death 1 magic, I don't know if this would be worth it. Maybe it would. Yeah, probably would. It probably would be worth it. Especially, I don't know why you would be in that situation as a blood hunting nation. All the blood hunting nations want growth, but I suppose could happen. Okay, you could also cast it to counteract negative death scales inherent in a province due to a throne or something, but it's probably not worth it to do either, really. Anyway, calling horrors in combat is kind of a double-edged sword because they can just randomly attack whoever they want. However, they will prioritize horror-marked enemies, so you can cast the spell like Astral Geyser to AoE horror-mark enemy troops. Then you can cast Call Lesser Horror or some of the more powerful horror spells to send a horror rampaging through the enemy army. It's kind of like luck, because some of the horrors are very dangerous and can actually do a lot of damage, making this a very effective combat summon, or you can get one of the shittier ones and it won't be so effective of a combat summon. Also kind of depends on the enemy's combat magic. Some things will take care of horrors easier than others. In particular, if the enemy has a lot of magic weapons, they can usually take out horrors pretty easily because they rely on ethereal for a lot of their survivability. So keep that in mind. Of course, you will have to kill the horror yourself if you do manage to rout the enemy army and it's still alive, because it will start attacking your troops. Wrath of Pazuzu. So this is another, nuke someone's province spell. One that's okay, but not great. Same thing goes that I've said about these sort of spells in the past. Don't really want to dig into them in great detail further on. I don't know if any of them are really, like, meta right now. I don't think any of them are at all, particularly, except perhaps some like endgame ones that like just destroy half the population in a province. I don't think Blood actually gets one of those. So it's okay to spam on someone's capital, like especially all at once, to just sort of surprise them and fuck up their cap, but not super great. I probably wouldn't spend blood saves on it myself. Oh, sorry, Awakened Dark Vines. So this is super good. Dark Vines are extremely powerful. If you look at their stat block here, 19 strength, right, with these 3 tentacle attacks, first off. So, I didn't realize this had damage -5, actually, but never mind. Oh, armor piercing. Okay, yeah. So that gets you 14 armor piercing damage with 3 attacks. That's actually extremely good. Now, the other thing is that they have 9 protection, which isn't great, but it's enough to give you okay damage reduction like a militia, and they have 126 hit points, which means versus someone who deals like 12 damage on average, that means that they're going to get 3 damage per attack. And so 3 goes into 126. Shit, I'm not good at this kind of math. Goes into 126 3 times. That would probably be like 40, right? 40, 80, 120, yeah. So roughly 40 attacks to kill someone if you do 12 damage per attack, normally. So these are very durable, and if you buff them, heaven forbid, with something like Body Ethereal or Marble Warriors, they become insanely good. So yeah, I highly recommend you mess around with Dark Vines. They're a lot of fun. Hellbind Heart. So this is a chance to permanently take control of an enemy dude, and I believe Hellbind Heart gives you full control of them. It does not make them mindless, meaning you can capture an enemy commander and gain it as your own. So this I've not seen anyone effectively use. You can probably try and snipe someone's thug with this, but it's going to be difficult because thugs tend to have good magic resistance, and it is magic resistance negates, and it's not an easy spell to spam due to it being a blood spell with fatigue cost 100 and a blood slave cost 1. But you can still try it, and the payoff is pretty big if you get something like a Jotun Scrotty, for example, who's trying raiding you when you're playing some other Blood Nation. Okay, Demon Knights. Demon Knights are extremely good. So you may have noticed that the demons have been following like an earth, fire, or not earth obviously, but air, fire, water theme or ice theme, right? And this is the earth sort of themed one. So these guys are insanely good. They're probably the most powerful pound for pound demon that you can summon with any of the specific demon summons, and that's why they are in Blood 5. So these guys have 22 protection. That is insane. That is a crazy amount of protection, right? There's only a few units that get protection this high, like baseline. and it's 25 on the head, 22 on the body. So actually headshots, which can deal more extra damage with, say, blunt weapons, are particularly ineffective against them. And they still have 20 hit points, which is quite good with a defense skill of 17. That's so good. Defense skill of 17. And that's 11 before the shield parry. But I mean, if something hits their shield, they're probably going to block all the damage. So they also have fire resistance and fear 5, and they get the lance charge, and they have 2 attacks after the lance charge, hoof and broadsword. So they're quite good units. They get a decent amount. They can dish out a decent amount of damage, and anyone fighting them will have a hard time killing them. And if they don't kill them, they're going to break because of the fear aura, right? And stacking these guys up and sending a big force of them in to fight your opponents, extremely effective strategy. Especially if you're rushing blood magic. If you're playing a blood nation that gets earth magic, very worth it to rush. It's also not a terrible idea to try and wiggle your way into earth magic to try and get more of these, but you do probably want at least 2 or 3 mages summoning these per turn so that you can get like enough to get a decent force up, because 5 could be fairly effective, but you really want like 10, 15, or at least to be able to replenish your supply, your like groups of 5 that you're going to put with different armies fairly quickly. And I just say 5 is like a random number. It's not like a magic thing about 5 that makes it really good, right? So, summon Ill-Earth. This guy is pretty good. So it's just like a super... Oh wait, no, this is just the combat summon. Whoops. I was thinking there's like a Father Ill-Earth or something later down. Yeah, Father Ill-Earth. I was thinking that's what this was, but we're not there yet. Okay, so Ill-Earth is kind of neat. It's a Earth elemental that has some special things, in particular regeneration being the odd thing that they've got. So it's basically just a pretty good trample unit. I mean, it's a size 6 trampler, kind of like a elephant, right? But less hit points actually than some elephants have a little bit, and not too great protection. So it's what's really good about it? It's mindless, which can be a boon. So it's morale 50, and it tramples things. I don't know what else to say about that. It's a pretty good combat summon actually. Like, as combat summons go, I'd be happy to utilize it. It is a bit of a pain to afford because it's 2 blood slaves, 200 fatigue, and 2 blood to earth. So bit strict on the requirements there. However, if you can summon it, I highly recommend it. They are quite good to add a little bit of extra punch to a battle. This is particularly a useful thing to do if, say, you've been rushing blood in order to do something like summon Demon Knights, and this is all you have access to is some summon Ill-Earths for in-combat power boosting, right? Okay, send Lesser Horror. This sends horrors like the summon Lesser Horror in combat thing to a province to attack the province. Now, send Lesser Horror on its own is probably only good versus like 1 or 2 or 3 PD, just a small number of units in a province. However, there are ways to empower these spells. I'll probably talk about Astral Corruption later, which is this neat thing that like makes Send Horror better. But you can harass people with it. It can be good to harass, like, oh, if an enemy has like an undefended research farm or just some provinces that you know that they've left with only 1 PD on, and they're what's the word I'm looking for here? They're dependent on those for income, right? Like they've got a farmland that's clearly producing them a lot of money, and they only have 1 PD on it, which would be a foolish mistake on their part. Sending one of these guys for 9 blood slaves to deprive your enemy of maybe like 100 gold a turn for like 2 or 3 turns until they can move the unit back in and capture it is quite good. I believe it hangs out in the let's see, before disappearing. Oh no, they do leave, I think, after attacking. I think they leave after attacking. Maybe it's the higher tier horror spells that hang around. I know there's like a way that they can end up hanging around, but I forget if that's like an intentional thing you can do with more powerful spells. Raid of Toad. So this used to be a really infamous like harass province spell because it's actually particularly good. Causes unrest and kills and unrest, disease, misfortune, and I think it kills province. So this is one of the ones where it's worth it if you have, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 mages, and you can just cast this, spend like 100 blood slaves to shut down someone's capital production in a single turn, right? This can be kind of worth it. If you're like in the middle of a war with someone, you shutting down their capital's gold value and their ability to recruit more mages and troops from it can be a deciding factor if it takes them if they lose like several turns of recruitment and the income to recruit those units, because your capital often gives you like 400 or more gold per turn when you're already winning the war. That can kind of seal the deal for you. So this can be worth it, although it is a pretty big investment to make use of that. All right, life drain 1, 100% of the... Oh, let's see. Everyone in the vicinity. That's right. So this is an interesting spell. It's pretty good if you succeed, right? Because if you hit the whole battlefield, there's a decent number of troops in the battlefield, you're probably going to drain enough life to restore all your fatigue and all of your health, right? But it costs 4 blood slaves. It'll probably damage your blood slaves. They don't have a lot of hit points, so you might even be killing some of your blood slaves. If I don't know, they took damage from something else. I think they have more than 1 hit point, but I could be wrong. So you're gonna, yeah, I don't know. It kind of doesn't do that much to the battlefield, so it's sort of a do nothing for a turn spell. But perhaps you could consider, if you had a lot of blood slaves on a mage in particular, doing this instead of reinvigoration, because it could have a similar net effect on a very large battlefield while damaging everything on it, including your own troops, though. So it might be better if you had an undead army. I haven't found a lot of use for this, but it's theoretically not useless, so there is that. I guess if you expected to need to restore fatigue and heal at the same time, this would be a good way to do it, if the battle is large enough that you expect success. So, bind Succubus. Succubus is a pretty good assassin. If you need to assassinate enemy commanders that you expect the Succubus to be able to kill, then it's a good summon. Otherwise, not really. It is 66 blood slaves, fairly expensive. And this isn't going to be useful for much besides the Dream Seduction, hopefully killing someone with that. So probably don't use it versus giants or anyone who has like really elite commanders. And I don't know if I'd recommend it overall at all, considering the new bodyguard system, because keeping bodyguards around will probably take care of that. Remote summon, Horde from Hell. Okay, yeah, this is a remote summon. You get a devil and a bunch of imps. So these guys can take out maybe up to like 5 to 10 province defense for 44 blood slaves. So this is kind of like a neat thing, because you get this raiding force and you hopefully in the turn you get it break up someone's province. And it's going to be situational, but once in a while there should be a situation where you can really get a lot of value out of that, right? Where like a province is crucial to your opponent, or perhaps they have a province that's like linking a bunch more provinces to them. So if you take out the link province, right, they lose all the income from all the provinces that are that's connecting to a castle potentially. If you're in a situation like that, sending this in to hit that province could be really valuable. Sending it in to destroy temples and stuff like that, pretty decent as well. Additionally, you could use this like, I don't know, you could cast this multiple times on the same province the turn before your army goes in to like weaken an army slightly before you actually invade. That's kind of a wasteful use of it, I would say, but you could do it and it wouldn't be totally useless. It depends a little bit, like certain types, depending on the enemy's army, they might be able to take care of those imps without any trouble, but especially if they weren't expecting flyers, having the imps attack could be irritating for them. Okay, so this removes 10 years off your caster's age. It's very good if you have old age mages, because old age is a pretty serious set of penalties, and this can remove it. So that's that. Harm, let's see, this is the one that causes a chest wound. Yeah, so this is really good, actually, because it's okay, it's magic resistance negates, it's only 2+ damage, but like, consider this situation where you maybe are a communion leader. Your mage that's casting this has blood 3 or 4 to begin with. It's boosted to 4 or 5. So let's say it's boosted to 5. That's going to be +3 damage, putting it at damage 5, armor negating. 5 armor negating is not bad, and you cause a chest wound. And the area of effect is going to be +2 per level. So that's going to be +3, +6, so that's going to be 10 area of effect. So area of effect 10, 5 damage. That is very good. Cast this twice, you might be killing 10 squares of human-sized troops. Cast this 3 times, you're almost certainly killing chunks of enemy troops. Now you can hit allied troops with it. It's precision 5, which is pretty decent, but it can miss, or you can just get a little bit of friendly fire on the AoE spread. But it's a fairly good like first 2 spells to open the battlefield with, to like damage the enemy army a bit and make it easier for your troops to kill them. They'll fatigue out faster if they manage to survive for a while, and of course if you actually have that powerful mage to cast it, they will be starting the fight at fairly low health, hopefully allowing your troops to one-shot them in some cases. So it's quite good. It's called horror. This gets you a more powerful more powerful version of that summon a horror in combat spell we went over earlier. So this is, it's kind of the same deal as the previous one, but we've kind of got some better options here. I'm not sure you really want to do this over like summon Bind Ill-Earth or summon Ill-Earth, but you might not have access to it because it is the astral version. So same as before, if you kind of have a need for something to disrupt the enemy army and you want that like extra summon firepower in the fight, maybe you've been rushing blood, hopefully you also have a little bit of evocation for Astral Geyser. So task some mages to cast Astral Geyser and task some mages to cast Call Horror. Astral Geyser will cast faster anyway, so you could even just, you know, Call Horror, round 1, who cares? Astral Geyser is going to cast maybe 1 or 2 times from another mage, and hopefully you have a couple mages casting it, and then you'll get a bunch of the enemy army horror marked, and these guys will go off to attack them, right? Alright, Bind Ice Devils. This is a pretty notable spell because it gets you these named Ice Devils. Let's do them all up here. I recommend you actually like take a look at them yourself separately, or I guess you could just pause this video. I don't know if I'm going to be able to... Oh man, this is a lot of dudes to spread out here. Okay, so I'm not going to go over each and every one of these guys in excruciating detail, but let's no, go away, Frostfiend. Let's go over them in light detail, say. So each of these guys has somewhat of a different theme, but all of them are pretty viable for thugging if you give them weapons and armor, and they're all useful mages, right? So in particular, this is Blood 3, Water 3, right? And this can break you into Death Magic, it can break you into Astral Magic, if you don't have those 2 magics, if you get Bivrons or Brune. I think it's Bivrons. Bivrons or Brune will break you into those magic things, and they're also really good units. If you get any of these other guys, these can be pretty solid thugs. Some of them are kind of decent as thugs, like right off the bat. Like I think Gap here, if you can use your water magic to cast like quickness and like liquid body, and then he's got this pretty powerful hell sword that drains life, and he's got berserk. And so if you have if you're in a cold area, right? Because these are another thing where like they get a lot of bonuses from cold. Now something to mention here is that they are not super good as thugs outside of cold provinces, but they are perfectly good as mages outside of cold provinces. Okay, so keep that in mind. But if you've got this guy, and you know enemies are attacking into your territory, you can use him to like raid behind them and just take out provinces with province defense without too much trouble. Oh. Can't believe I didn't have full screen on this whole time. Well, fuck it, I'm not re-recording that. My bad though. All right, so yeah, you can raid behind them and take those provinces. Potentially, you can resummon these guys, right? If they die, you can just cast this again. You'll get back the dude you had. That's fairly safe to let them get killed if that's what I'm looking for here. If you have control of blood magic, right? If there's no one else potentially competing for water blood pathing and potentially summoning these guys because they are unique and only one person can get each of them, if you just don't no competition, then it's a pretty safe bet to get them killed. Although I believe they keep afflictions between resummons, so keep that in mind. You might want to like empower them in blood and then strip off their afflictions with that one blood spell. But yeah, you can have this. You could have them even like attack the back of an army and provide value that way. So yeah, they've got pretty good combat stats all around. But like I said, if it's not in a cold province, you might not want to use them as thugs because they do have cold power and ice protection, and they have cold auras, and so they kind of rely on the bonuses to those things from cold scales, right? Okay, Infernal Disease Demon. So this guy is an assassin, right? No. Ethereal Flying spreads plague. Okay, so this guy is not... Is this guy even useful? He's not stealthy either. Alright, so, I'm not sure I see, like, the intended use of this guy, honestly. Remote summon Oh, my bad. Remote summon assassination. Right. So you summon this guy and target a province, and he goes and kills someone, right? Yeah, he goes and attacks an enemy commander. And it's a pretty good odds that it will kill the commander, even if they live through the attack. They'll probably be diseased and die. So that's a pretty good commander kill summon. Only 5 blood slaves. Yeah, this is actually a pretty good send summon. Like, he's got flying, he's got ethereal, he's got kind of ship protection, but whatever, his stat line is okay. no big deal. It'll kill most people, and there's a good chance that even versus like someone that could survive it, like a giant, right? A giant commander like a Jotun Jarl, they might get diseased and die anyway. So, Ritual of the Five Gates. This is actually pretty handy because it gets you one of each of these elemental demons, right? You got the Devil, the Fire one, Frost Fiend, Frost obviously, Storm Demon, Air, and Demon Knight, which is Earth. And the neat thing about this is it only requires blood magic. You don't have to have an Earth cross path. You don't have to have an Air cross path. You don't have to have a Water cross path. You don't have to... Actually, the Devil, I think, is just straight up... Actually, no, wait. Summon Devil, it is fire, right? Yeah, okay. Find Devil. It is fire. Yeah, you don't have to have the fire cross paths. If you've got none of those cross paths, or your access to them kind of sucks, you can just cast this. Additionally, it does summon, what, 1, 2, 3, 4 guys in one cast, right? So you might need to cast it like a solid number of times, nonetheless, like 5 times or 10 times. So because you want a decent complement, right, of each of these troops, so that you can put them together and have them work well together. But nonetheless, you'll get a lot more troops per mage turn overall, right? So it's quite a good spell, and this is like a good like marker point in blood research where you've gotten some really valuable stuff. Okay, that is all for this video. Thank you for watching. Yakari out.